After we've got something kind of built up like this, it might be better to just get in and start to manually sculpt some areas. You can look for a recipe to make things a little better, but it's usually a little better to get in and start to process this stuff manually. So here I am with the clay build up, and I'm going to introduce you to another feature in brushes, one that's really useful for things like hair. I'm going to grab the brush palette, drag it off to the side here. I'm going to hit this R to reset it, make it smaller. And I'm going to open up the tablet pressure tab, or sub-palette. And I'm going to click size. And this is basically the size of the brush based on how much pressure I put down. So what you'll notice is that no matter how hard I press, there's always going to be a certain size. Okay, and so you could say this is 0 pressure, this is 100% pressure, and this is basically size. So 100% pressure goes all the way. But you can adjust this, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to adjust the curve a little bit to give us a little bit more, just a little bit more subtlety. So for example, the way it's set up right now, I click lightly and then press. Okay, but as I do that, the brush doesn't change in size very much. Okay, let's clear any masks that are visible. And let's drag that all the way down. And I'm going to set the focal shift at, like, let's say 33. And let's do that again. Lightly and then harder. And now what you'll notice, small, and it gets bigger. So that's a much nicer stroke, really. And it'll really help me when I'm getting in here to start to kind of mess with this spiky hair and start to find stuff. So here I am. Okay, the other thing I might do is go into stroke and set my lazy step to 0.05. Okay, that usually gets rid of any kind of staccato quality. Make sure any mask is cleared. Control, click, and drag will clear it. Lower the draw size. Smooth out. You see I'm alternating between Z sub and Z add, really focusing on the areas that are really visible. Might be, are we still working in layers? Yeah, we're still working in a layer, but it might be soon that we want to refigure out the topology. We'll let that one sit for a bit. And sometimes with clay buildup and something like this, I'll switch to alpha 60. Just because with alt and whatnot, I can sometimes get some nice results. However, it might help to lower your depth. So my depth embed is set to 11. Okay. Great. Okay, I'm just establishing some shapes. I don't know, I'm going to experiment. Not happy with anything except for this. Just because it's everything else adds too much of its own. Click in the depth to raise that. Okay, I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm digging in, pulling out, but I still don't have really good edge work on this. So I'm going to show you something here in a moment to give you a little bit more control over edges and pieces of the hair that are flying around or sticking out. And that's really the snake hook brush. Snake hook. And you can just pull out like that. Notice I have alpha 25 though. And that's really going to help. You can also just toggle back and forth. But you got to be careful because it's a real powerful brush. So let's see now. This line is very boring. Now we want to get in and add a little spice to it and just pull it out, and it's more exciting. But it's kind of important to get the hair clumps sketched out with clay buildup before you get too far with that. Also, you can just click and drag around and it creates these really nice shapes. Let's pull this one down over the head. Adjust my angle. There we go. And I'm using it to help me get a sense of how these guys are interlapping, or interacting I should say. Interlapping. Okay. Back to clay buildup. Oh, stopped talking there. I just fell into an artist mode. Okay, I can't explain these curves. I've tried. There's a certain math to it, but you have to be careful of even trying. I mean, you gotta try to copy patterns from, say, Bernini, some of the old guys, and then it eventually just starts to sink in. And I wouldn't even say it's sunk in for me yet. I got to do a lot more copying to get there. Clay buildup is really just going to adjust the form of this. It doesn't really care about topology, so that's going to be a massive asset in a lot of these things where things just go kind of wrong, and I'm trying to build up across. Alright, so it is that I'm adding clumps, and they are resembling these rounded, clumps. These little short hair that's kind of sticking up and doing something. But this is only one phase. There is absolutely another phase where I'm going to come into all of these little bits with snake hook and give them a little lift. You hear me furiously tapping in there. Okay, and on from there. Now I'm not going to finish this while you're here. I just want to get a little bit more of it done so I can start to show you some of the ways that I'll augment the work. Get rid of these obvious. Oh, this could have been useful. Let's get a couple layers here as well. Okay, I'll say I've done enough there. Switch over to snake hook, which I have on a hotkey, and start doing some edge work. Okay, let's say try 23. 23 is kind of interesting. Oof, really messes that up. Let's try 25 again. Okay, in we go. A little bit of edge work. Let's pull this guy off the sides. Let's get that going another direction. Lift here. Didn't like that. There we go. That's a nice lift. Let's lift from the center here. Okay. I want to take a little lift. There we go. Another one. And let's push this guy the other direction. Pull it out a little bit. There we go. Alright, so you get a sense. I'm not happy with this. These are all too obvious. So I'm going to break that up. That's a little better. Alright, so we broke it up a lot with the clay buildup, and then we went in with the snake hook brush, and we really started to mess with it quite a bit, just to kind of get some different edge work. And given a little more time, I would go in and do the entire thing with this exact same process, but it would take a little longer than the 13 minutes that we've been together during this segment. But this 13 minutes gives you a really good idea, and it's stored on a layer, so you can maybe augment that. And another really cool thing you can do is start to post-process this. So let me close that layer, or that tray, and now I'm going to create another layer, and I don't know, let's say, do we want to polish? Okay, and then say invert. We're making this even wackier, but really making it fall upon itself. So here's one way that we could be doing this. And now let's turn that layer off. Yeah, just kind of shrinks it in. Okay. Let's see, what else can we try? Let's try another layer. And inflate balloon. Inflate. Just to add a little bit more dreadlock-like quality to it. Okay, and then these are all stored in separate layers, so we can go back and forth. And this one we could even invert that. Adding a little bit of it's nice. Invert that, invert this. We get some kind of different knotted quality, which is not bad in and of itself. So you've got a couple of different options for what you want to do. I'm going to set this back and this one back. And this guy is going to get set back to like 2. I kind of like where that was going. There. Just lower that a bit. Okay, so that's working with another subtool and a little bit on sculpting the hair.